entire city almost is under attack here. What's going on in Dallas, Andre?
Yeah, so last Monday they got a ransomware attack and they had to pretty much shut down all their computers, and a lot of their computers and networking systems like that were not able to be used. So starting off to what the consumer normally could see is like water bill payments, code enforcement, that was down. And then you had the computer 911 system. So they have something called a computer aided dispatch, is where if there's a 911 call, it helps the dispatcher automatically locate the nearest police officer to then be able to go to that emergency. And the same thing for the fire and ambulance. So that has been affected as well. And this is terrible news because now they're saying calls are being delayed by 30 minutes because the dispatcher has to now manually try to figure out, okay, this police officer, send them here and things like that. So they're really struggling. And here we are, 9 days later, and they're still suffering from this.
Has it been that long?
Last Monday, because we talked about it last week, right?
Time flies. Wow. Jeez. So this is right in your backyard somewhat, Randy. What are they saying out in Texas? What's going on? Give us some boots on the ground kind of perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's really talking about it. That's why we have this podcast, man, because it's not the word on the street is what's going on in Dallas. So we're all kidding aside, we're like a 3 to 4 hour drive from Dallas, depending on traffic. So it's a whole nother world up there. So yeah, not a lot of talk down here on the streets about it.
So some of the comments that are coming out in the article that we have up on the screen are actually kind of interesting. There's this guy, Bill Zelensky, who's the Dallas Chief Information Officer, who's kind of, it seems like he's doing a little bit of like protecting himself from the situation, but he's basically coming out publicly and saying that the event underscores the need for our city to address the long-standing underinvestment in IT and possibly even look at how we structure it. So this sounds like a guy who's not getting much support from the city or the people that he works for in order to do his job properly. That's what I took from this. What are you guys seeing or taking from this?
I mean, no offense to the guy making the statement, but it sounds to me like his lawyers gave him the right words to say. You're right, because what we're seeing in all of these is if there is personal data that's leaked, then you have employees come back and are suing the cities for these kinds of things. Supposedly, there hasn't been any personal data that's been leaked. So, I don't know. But if that's what he's doing, if he's heading off something or what, but there is an underinvestment in this particular sector.
It's amazing to me the amount of finger pointing that's now coming out as a result of this. You got the firefighters leaders basically saying that there was a recommendation made over a year ago to split off the public safety into its own network segregation, as we talk about all the time on the podcast. And this is just another person who's basically saying like things are not being done as recommended. And I think, this underscores what we talk about all the time on this show, guys, is like, we're trying to warn the public and we're trying to warn people that, businesses and government are not taking care of things the way that they should. Right.
Yeah.
And that's really what's going on here. So we have a major critical infrastructure entity attacked again in this country. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. You have this country being attacked, critical infrastructure being attacked constantly, and nothing being done about it. So not only are we not doing anything on the front side to prevent it, but we're not doing anything on the backside to take down or bring to justice the people who are creating all this havoc. And it's kind of upsetting.
Yeah, and just going back to that segmentation, we've seen in other news stories where you have just that one department that is that got affected because they do segment from one department to another department. But here it just seems that that one IT director, he's in charge of every single department, and they all talk to each other. They all network together. So if one goes down, they're all going to be suffered.
An interesting thing that I read about this is that the ransomware group that's in charge of this, they're called Royal. And I believe we talked about it when we mentioned this last week or the week before when it broke. And like I said, like Brian said, it does seem like a long time ago. But short story long is they typically don't release the data until after the negotiations have failed, is what I have read. So them coming out and saying no personal data has been leaked is kind of a nothing burger, because these guys don't leak the personal data until these negotiations fall through. So that's their threat that they basically hold. Say, hey, we're going to release the data. So this is probably still has a lot more news left, I guess, is where I'm going with that.
Yeah, there's a lot to be had in terms of what we're going to find out in the news and all that stuff. But the other part of this is that, no data has been stolen is also indicative of the fact that they didn't have the ability to even know it. And until real forensic investigators get in there and really dig deep and give them this information, that's kind of this statement that a lot of these companies say until they're proven otherwise, right? So a lot of times it's a lack of visibility into what's actually happening on your network, not so much that things are being released on the dark web. So we got another one here, guys, and this is kind of the theme here early on in the show, is warning people about these threats, right? We see the city of Dallas, they go down, and now we have a new ransomware strain that's picking off big businesses one by one. And as this article states, yours could be next. So this is a new ransomware group called Akira, and it was discovered by the malware hunter team, who discovered a sample of their encryptor, and they shared it with Bleeping Computer. Akira was launched in March of 2023 and has raided 16 companies by its own claims. And Akira targets mostly enterprises, but doesn't seem to favor any specific vertical. As so far, it's targeted firms in education, finance, real estate, manufacturing, and consulting industries. Of the 16, Akira leaked data belonging to 4, with the leaked databases varying in size from roughly 6 gigs all the way up to 250 gigs. So they basically, and of their victims, it goes on to say that their lowest paid ransom started at $200,000 and then went all the way up into the millions of dollars. And it goes on to say that the group is happy to lower its demand for firms that don't need the decryptor and just want to make sure that the attackers don't leak sensitive data onto the dark web. And just digging a little deeper on this group and just giving you the information, they will first look for an opening in a corporate network, either by phishing, logging credentials from gullible employees, or by exploiting a flaw in hardware and software. So that tells you need to train your employees for phishing, which is what we talk about all the time on the show. And you need to make sure that you are patching your systems and looking for vulnerabilities on your network, because this is what hackers are doing to take down your companies. Thoughts here, guys? Because I'm going to jump into the CFO Dive article, which also talks about how things are going up and things are spiking and things are not going or trending in the direction they were at the end of 2022. But before I jump there, you guys have any thoughts on? Go ahead.
Yes. So something that we need to keep in mind here. So this article that you were reading mentions that once they're into the network, because of an email, most likely, then they go basically do their work, and they're basically hanging around, and they are, living off the land. The point of what I want to make is most people have the idea that they click on an email and then all of a sudden, boom, ransomware comes up. But it's really a long game, y'all. And you need to know this because you click on an email that contains malware. I've said this story twice today. I'm going to say it for the third time. The original Alien back in the 70s, the Alien movie, the little monster comes out of his chest. And what does it do as soon as it comes out of his chest? It goes somewhere and it hides. So when you click on a malware, it's going to do basically the same thing. When you click on an email, it opens a malware. It's going to go somewhere in your network where there's a vulnerability. It's going to dig in. It's going to try to remain undetected. It's going to start what we call living off the land, and it's going to start learning about your network. So when it's time to pull the trigger, man, they've already deleted your backups. They already know that, you know, certain people in the network do certain things. They already know about your customers. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. We need to keep that in mind when we're talking about malware. It's a lot. And just because you don't see anything right now, or you don't see anything, you know, Susie clicked on an email 2 months ago and nothing happened, that doesn't mean that they're not there. Well, I got started on that one.
Yeah, you did. So this article on CFO Dive, I mean, jumps into the fact that ransomware is just, and look, we put this show together every week. And this week, right, Andre and I had 14 topics ready to go before Randy even jumped into the green room to help us out with it. So sometimes we struggle finding, especially towards the end of 2022, we struggled to find content to talk about on the show. We are not struggling. So that's one just data point or indicator to us, you know, not only as to the things we're seeing in our business, but we know that ransomware attacks and cyber attacks are up right now, and people should be on high alert. I've never seen it this high personally. And the insurance data is backing that up. We have, you know, insurance provider Resilience, who's basically saying that their ransomware claims are up almost 50%, and that quarter over quarter from the first quarter to the second quarter, or the first quarter of this year to the prior quarter, the last quarter of 2022, their claims have spiked 77%. And then you have another group here. There's I can't find it real quick. I can't find the name, but there's another insurance company group here that basically says same thing for them, that they're basically doubled their claims for ransomware attacks in this quarter of 2020, first quarter of 2023 versus the fourth quarter of 2022. So there was definitely a lull in what was going on in probably the last 6 months of 2022. And people thought we were getting ahead of the game. There were plenty of articles written at the end of 2022 where people thought we were getting ahead of the game on ransomware. And the three of us said, you know, not so fast. Like, the jury's still out on that. A lot of insurance companies, a lot of lawyers were coming out saying, like, we're getting ahead of this. And the three of us were just like, no, because businesses are not doing enough. And there's no way that this is going away. And there's a report here by Black Kite that's mentioned in this CFO Dive article that I have up that basically said ransomware attacks experienced a period of relative stagnation throughout 2022 as international sanctions stemming from Russia's invasion of Ukraine hindered the movement of ransom-related funds. In addition, increased pressure from law enforcement and successful joint operations against ransomware groups in 2021 and 2022 led to heightened caution among cyber criminals, the report said. So we had a little bit of a retreat, you know, by ransomware groups as a result of this, but we also are seeing what we usually see with ransomware groups pointed out in this article. A, they adapt, and B, when they do adapt, they're usually very successful. And that's what they did here. They adapted their methodologies on how they attack you and deploy ransomware. But more importantly, they adapted on ways to get the money from point A to point B so they get the money at the end of the day. And these sanctions made it a little bit more difficult, but clearly they figured ways around it.
Yep. And we got Mother's Day coming up, Memorial Day coming up, July the 4th coming up. It's going to be really, really busy for these companies when they get hacked.
What is it about the holidays, Andre?
Well, during the holidays and even with summer coming up, a lot of us are going to be vacationing, slowing down, shortages of staff because people are out. And come Monday morning, no one's going to be in the office, and the hackers have a little more time. And that's when people are out. And when they're out, then they can't help. So this is just a perfect timing.
Not to rain on your parade there, but I think that's a little bit of like with everything with that I see with this stuff. There's always that kind of old mentality, and I think that thought process around holidays it might be getting a little long in the tooth, because quite frankly, I think more and more companies are investing in things like SOCs, security 24/7 security operations center. So somebody is watching over more and more companies than in the past. And I don't think that's going to reduce the amount of attacks. I think that's just going to let people know that they're under attack a lot quicker. And I also think that, knowing that ransomware operators don't care what day of the week it is moving forward, I think that they're going to strike whenever they can. They're not going to wait for people to quote unquote be on vacation. Because I think like SOCs are kind of erasing that, because back in the day before SOCs, your IT team went home on the weekend, right? Mm-hmm. And they didn't pay attention to much. Maybe some guy was assigned to something, but I think as things evolve and as companies implement SOCs, I think one of the things we're going to see is that, they're not going to care what day of the week they hit. It's not going to matter, because they're getting so good at this stuff behind the scenes to deploy it before they actually do it. Like you're seeing right now, like this stuff's happening not over any holiday. It just happens to be a holiday when they get hit. It's a coincidence. So I think that's going to be a big change that we're going to see.
Yeah. I love to see behind the curtain just to see if Dallas actually had a SOC or if they just did.
No way. No. Okay. They probably had like a risk assessment done, but I don't think very many government organizations are investing in SOCs.
No, well, not even in-house, but even if it's a third party, I'm just curious, just in general, if they had.
No, I don't think they did. That's what I mean. Like I would, number one, nobody's going to have an in-house. It takes millions of dollars to set up a SOC internally. Government is not, that's one function that they have to outsource. Our government building their own SOC is silly. Number one, and number two is that they're definitely not investing in it. Most private businesses don't invest. I seriously doubt, other than the DoD, I seriously doubt a lot of like local governments, colleges, universities are investing in that kind of stuff yet. They will. So moving right along, guys. Randy, you got this one. Western Digital.
Yeah, good old Western Digital. So this has been an attack that we have talked about several times on the show. I think twice to be exact, maybe even more in passing. But it has come out in the last few days that they, when they were hacked, that they were able to steal customer data. So I am going to read a little bit of the article, and then there's something that I just wanted to mention right towards the end. But it says Western Digital has taken its store offline and sent customers data breach notifications after confirming that hackers stole sensitive personal information in a March cyber attack. The company emailed the data breach notifications late Friday afternoon, so we're just talking a few days ago, warning that customers' data was stored in a Western Digital database stolen during the attack. Based on the investigation, we recently learned that on or around March 26, 2023, an unauthorized party obtained a copy of a Western Digital database that contained limited personal information of our online store customers, Western Digital said. The information included customer names, billing and shipping addresses, email addresses, and telephone numbers. They say limited, but that is very valuable, even what they got. As a security measure, the relevant database stored in encrypted format hashed passwords, which were salted and partial, or they also got hashed passwords, which were salted and partial credit card numbers. So one thing I want to read, one more thing. It says Western Digital also warns impacted customers to be vigilant against spear phishing attacks where threat actors impersonate the company and use the stolen data to gain further personal information for customers. And to me, that's one of the biggest things in this particular article, is that personal information. We talk about it every time we read about personal information getting leaked. This is so powerful in the hands of the wrong people, because a spear phishing means A, it's targeted after you. And then most likely, since it is targeted after you, it's going to include some kind of personal information. So like you had a leak that found out that you have a certain disease or a certain hobby or a certain bill that was late. I mean, all of that stuff can be brought into a spear phishing email. The more information that's on there, the more likely you are to believe the email and click on it and result in mayhem basically after that. So pretty big deal that this happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. I mean, it seems like they are, I don't think they're negotiating. Doesn't seem like they are. This is one of those ones where I said, wow, they could be down for a pretty long time. As you said, they minimized the data set that was stolen, saying it's a limited data set when, who gets the term that it's limited.
Right.
What other data set do we need to have included so it's not limited? I guess that's my question. They were shut down for 2 weeks. Alpha V, their stuff ended up on the link site. I guess the most amazing thing that I'm reading here is the amount of data that was stolen, around 10 terabytes. And I think I commented on that last week too. 10 terabytes is a lot of data, and how you don't know that that's coming off your network is amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Andre, thoughts?
No, we're good on it.
Cool. All right, moving right along then. This is yours. So,
yes, Microsoft. Let me grab my phone. So, I'm sure everybody has seen a time in your life where you get a pop-up on your screen from an authenticator app asking you to click yes or no. And what's been happening is hackers realize that if they can just keep on making that message pop up on your screen, because they already know your username and your password for your Office 365 or your Gmail or whatever the case is, if you click yes, they are now in your system. And we even had a customer where they went on a website, they put in their username, they put in their password, and the same thing happened with the Authenticator app, and now the hacker was able to get into their system. So this has been happening a lot, and Microsoft has finally changed what they call MFA fatigue, and now they're moving over to MFA push system. So if you can scroll down a little, Brian.
Yeah.
So the idea is that if you are truly trying to log into an account, what you will now do is you'll have a number that pops up, and then from there will no longer be something on your phone that's asking you to do something. You now have to go into your phone and enter that, and then now that's the way you can now authenticate. So I think this is brilliant. This is going to save because, as we always said, us cybersecurity professionals, we can do all of the protections in the world. We can do your phishing. We can have the best antivirus, the SOC systems. But at the end of the day, it's that employee. And if that employee does something that they shouldn't have, all of it just doesn't matter. So I love this idea that they're doing. And I think by the end of the week or already, right? March 9th.
Hey, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah. So it's great.
So
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I said as I told you, Andre, when we were talking about this, we implemented this probably 6 weeks ago. I don't know. I think it was somewhere around there. The other thing that we added, just so people know it's available, is on ours, that little pop-up there where you see the number 83, we actually see the geolocation of where it's coming from, the request as well. There's like a little map with a map marker. So if you're not in that relative area, that's another sign that you shouldn't be typing that or approving that request. So there's a lot of different things that they're building in the MFA to make it a little bit more secure than just clicking a button, right? Because I think we realized over time that yes or no or approve or deny button is a little bit too easy for people to, that's why there's the term MFA fatigue, because hackers know if we can try to keep sending you a message, maybe eventually you'll click the wrong option and let us in. Right. Good, Rain.
Well, I'd say, before we break out the scotch and cigars and celebrate mission accomplished, I'm not saying that we are, none of us do, but just in case any of the audience wants to do that, this is just another move of the chess piece.
Oh yeah, 100%.
In the cat and mouse game. We've already seen, we mentioned it on one of our shows a couple of months ago, where one of our clients got a supposedly a OneNote thing, and she wasn't really paying attention. She tried to click on it and it opened up, hey, log into Microsoft. And she entered in her information. She got the pop-up. She approved it, and then it went right back. And so that's a classic example of getting around the MFA fatigue, because they caused her to enter in her username and password and then had a pop-up. So even if the number would have popped up, even the only thing that I think that might have thrown her off, if the geo would have popped up. If the geo would have popped up, which, I would say out of all the stuff we've mentioned to go on that particular pop-up, the geo would be the best. But other than that, if she didn't have the geo, she would have just typed in the number because she thought she was logging in. And that's the other side already doing, the next cat and mouse move, if you will, to offset what's been happening on, the good people's side, if you will.
Absolutely. Yep. So I'm just going to bring this one up.
But by the way, I would agree with both y'all. I do love this feature though.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
for now,
I get so excited that we just forget
for now
that it's going to be good for like 3 more weeks, Yeah,
for now. All right. So this was an interesting one to me because this Gaston College, this is another college, university in the U.S. that got hit with a ransomware attack, but it seems like this one, at least for a while, got brushed under the rug. And it wasn't until that a victim of the ransomware attack or an employee of the college forwarded a copy of an email about the attack to the Gaston Gazette on May 4th, just 5 days ago. This attack actually happened back in February of 22nd of 2023. So almost 3 months, guys. But that they kind of brushed this under the rug before it got out there. Just reading the article myself, and the reason I wanted to bring it up is because it seemed like they tried to brush this under the rug and not let it go public. But then it seems like maybe this employee was contacted by the hackers saying, we have your information, which prompted this employee to then forward this to media, and the media started looking into it. So I just found it a little interesting, and I don't know if you guys see it the way I do, but I just, thought like, wow, it looks like this college tried to brush this under the rug and not let it out. And then this person got contacted by a hacker, probably trying to get extorted, and, was basically like, I'm going to out this college right now.
Yeah. It definitely
wild, right?
seems like that.
Yeah, it's wild.
The video started playing automatically, man.
And that's like the interesting thing for me is, and then why it's interesting and why I want to talk about it is because businesses try to do this all the time.
Yep.
Businesses try to blow off these events, hire some company that'll work with them, maybe, or maybe they'll try to go about it themselves. And we're going to get out of this. We're going to pay the ransom. We're not going to tell anybody. We're going to move on. And then boom, the hackers start contacting people from the data sets that they were able to get their hands on. Maybe that's your employees. Maybe that's your clients. Maybe that's your partners. Maybe it's people that, you do business with on a regular basis who are now being contacted by these criminal hackers who say, we have your data, pay us. And then they're like, where did you get this? And then they're like, well, we hacked this company over here. And now, they've been drug into this situation, and now they know you've been hacked. This has happened. I mean, I've read about this on more than one occasion where the aftermath has occurred because hackers have reached out to a third party, and that third party then raised questions. So, thoughts on this, Randy?
Yeah, just no, I don't have any extra thoughts. No.
No. All right. So, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, to reiterate, this is like when I'm personally trying to let a customer know this is the service that you need from us. This is why you should buy it from us. This is why you need it. And then they look around, they're like, none of my friends, I have tons and tons of business friends. I would have known if they got hacked or something like this, but all of the stuff is being swept under the rug. And I tell them this, I'm like, look, it's just not making the news, but it's happening. So perfect example where this college almost got away scotch-free, but then it came up.
Yep.
Yeah, we're still in that stage where there's lots of shame about, admitting that you were hacked or whatever, or there's enough, maybe it's not for real, but there's enough that people believe that they do want to keep it quiet.
Well, just to keep with the flow of what we're talking about, I'm going to skip down to, and I hate to do this to you, Andre, but it's yours, number 10, because it goes along with what we're talking about right now. So we might as well talk about it. Right. You got your guys are talking about brushing things under the rug, and I don't think there's a more famous one than the CSO of Uber trying to brush the ransomware attack under the rug, who now face charges. But he ended up getting kind of a slap on the wrist, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah, 15 months of house arrest, basically. This needed to be the example where other CISOs, other IT directors would have been able to reference and be like, okay, I remember what the Uber guy did in 5 years or whatever the case is. But yeah, definitely a slap on the wrist.
Any thoughts here, Randy?
You're just there's gonna be a lot more of this because people do need to come out publicly about it, and people do need to be held accountable about it. So I just think we're going to see more and more of this. He did avoid prison time, but barely. So and we have with the FTC safeguards rule that goes into effect next month, the potential for more prison terms, more penalties. So, I mean, I just think this is we're kind of like at the tip of the iceberg or at the beginning of a big shift, I believe.
So is what you're saying? Like this guy got off scot-free, or I don't want to say scot-free, but he didn't have to do prison time. Do you think there's going to be somebody down the road who is going to be made an example of and will have to do prison time? I mean, because look, we're talking to CEOs about this all the time, and when we say this, we're only reiterating, and Randy did allude to it, but we're only reiterating what state attorney generals and the FTC is saying, that they're going to use things like the FTC safeguard rules as leverage to prosecute executives who don't do cybersecurity the right way. Right. So, I mean, the question has to be asked, do you guys really ever think that people are going to be held accountable to the level of prison time for this kind of stuff?
I think so. It's just this guy was a trained attorney himself. And I just think it's going to be a fall guy that's not going to have the lawyers to be able to defend himself. And it'll be that person.
Yeah, that's that's a good point. And I don't know, I don't know, Brian, I can't really foresee the future on that, because on one hand, something like this seems like an appropriate punishment for not disclosing. I mean, but on the other hand, part of me is like, well, that's really bad that he didn't disclose. So, I mean, I don't really know. We don't really know. I don't personally know, or can't even guess. Would seem to be that it would probably head towards jail time, but you just don't know. That might be considered too much.
Yeah, but it's not even that he didn't disclose it. It's, someone can always say, oh, I didn't know I had to. It was, he
took steps to hide.
Yeah.
To the point where he made the hackers even sign a non-disclosure agreement on how much they actually paid them. I mean, so he ended up getting 200 hours of community service and paying a $50,000 fine. So I'm going to go back to the same question. I'm just going to ask it a different way this time. If you're asking me to invest in cybersecurity, or I get hit with ransomware, and you're basically telling me, we got to file an insurance claim, or we got to tell somebody, no, like the bite isn't big enough to discourage people from doing this kind of stuff. I just don't believe it is. And having all these rules and saying all this bad stuff on the front end of cybersecurity, and then this is the repercussion on the back end if you don't do it. I don't know if I see a correlation there. It's just you're getting off way too easy, in my opinion. And people are still not going to take cybersecurity seriously if this is how it's going to be. That's going to be the product that comes out of this.
Yep. And Uber, obviously, public company, so this is one of the reasons why it even got investigated.
Right.
Good point.
All right, buddy. It's all you, Randy. Moving back. VPN. They love it. They're going to take advantage of the flaws that live in VPN and destroy businesses. So
yeah, here we go. So it's a new ransomware strain called Cactus, which is exploiting VPN flaws to infiltrate networks. Cybersecurity researchers have shed light on a new ransomware strain called Cactus that has been found to leverage known flaws in VPN appliances to obtain initial access to targeted networks. Once inside the networks, Cactus actors attempt to enumerate local and network user accounts in addition to reachable endpoints before creating new user accounts and leveraging custom scripts to automate the deployment and detonation of the ransomware encryptor via scheduled tasks, Kroll said in a report shared with the Hacker News. The ransomware has been observed targeting large commercial entities since March 2023, with attacks employing double extortion tactics to steal sensitive data prior to encryption. No data leak site has been identified to date. So basically what they're doing is they're finding another potential flaw, another exploitable piece of the armor for them to be able to get into networks, and then doing just like we mentioned earlier. They get into the networks, they embed themselves somewhere where they're undetectable, and then they start to do things like this, like making local network accounts, reaching the endpoints, doing all kinds of things to basically get themselves all in that network to where then they can detonate the ransomware with the most damage.
Yeah, the other scary part of this and why I wanted to bring it up is because they've basically just automated the process of finding vulnerable devices like VPN and firewalls that are out there that have not been patched. They basically automated the whole entire process from finding you to exploiting you to getting in and getting persistent access, right? And that's pretty scary. I mean, to have basically a botnet network working on your behalf to find connected devices that are not being updated. And we know just by doing a simple Shodan search that they're out there. This isn't good. Like,
right.
Because we go back to the beginning of the show, right, where we talked about one of the biggest reasons why companies are still getting hacked because they're not updating shit, right? So this just goes along right with it. They're investing time and money into building something automated because they know once they get this automated and they can do it without human intervention, look out.
Well, so this one to add to what you're saying, this one kind of does that, and I need to kind of correct myself just a hair, because it looks like the infection chain, rather than taking 3 months or 5 months, the infection chain is spanning 3 to 5 days.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like they've literally just shortened the cycle.
Yep.
By almost 1,000%.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they've gone from almost needing a month to find something to needing a few days.
or a few seconds even.
Right. I mean, this is just another like signal that things are going to get worse this year.
And they're using Cobalt Strike.
Well, once they get in your network, they're deploying whatever they can for advanced persistence. But unbelievable. Wow. It just scares me because I just know how slowly the world is moving with their cyber defenses, and this is how quickly cyber criminals are moving.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you make one advancement with improving the MFA, but here you go. You know, they're not even worried about MFA because they know you're not updating your stuff. You know, right? MFA doesn't matter, people, when you're not updating your firewalls, and they can just bust down the front door.
Right.
So, all right, Andre, this network, because they didn't do things right, they're reeling to the tune of $30 million. What's going on here?
$30 million. They lost. So basically, they got cyber attacked back in February, I believe, and they're now still dealing with this. They are now, according to a report, they lost 552 subscribers in the first quarter. And they're saying that the majority of the reason is because they were unable to respond to technical and billing inquiries for weeks. And, you know, again, we talk about this all the time on the show. It's not that you get hacked and you're sweeping under the rug, but your business operations fails. I believe here in the article, it also talked about they had to re-image a lot of their computers and servers. Or that was a different article, but same concept. They had to redo all of their computers, and it's just terrible. And yeah.
Yeah. Randy, anything?
No.
Good. All right. So moving right along.
One more thing. Randy was going to say it. They also have class action lawsuits that's going to be tied to this. So
we know that.
Yeah. So the 30 million is just the beginning.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
That's what they had to disclose, I think, in their filing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But we've only just begun, as they say. So I just want to point this out because as the city or the county of Spartanburg deals with their issues, you know, you're not too small to be attacked. And Relentless Church, a church in, I believe it's Greenville, South Carolina, it's known as a community powerhouse, a multicultural, non-denominational place of worship with thousands of members, was the recent victim of a ransomware attack. And the pastor, John Gray, basically says that his team detected an external attack on its servers, and the church immediately hired a top security firm to take a look and work to figure out where the breach came from and how to secure the church and congregation data. Wow, that's easier said than done. Anyone who would seek to harm a church, you're not attacking us, you're attacking the God that we serve, and you don't want to go against him. We are very confident that our data is secured and our congregation's information is protected. You know, it's nice words to say, but I don't think cyber criminals really give two flying F's about this guy's God. So any thoughts here, guys? It's never too small, right? That's kind of the lesson learned that I wanted to point out as we quickly talk about this one.
No, I've gone to many churches and I go into their Wi-Fi and I just run a free tool that I find on the Apple Store just to scan their networks. And, you know, they label computers pastor's PC, and it's on it's on the same Wi-Fi. And the churches, they say they don't have the budget for cybersecurity. And why would someone, want to, they don't have anything, right? They only transaction stuff online for their donors and things like that. But he's going to find out.
Yeah. So even if you're a church and you're using church software that's online, you have a payment like for giving, if you have that online, you still have personal information that you're going to be dealing with. You're going to have PDFs of, maybe of a donor that you view on your computer that goes down to your local computer. You're going to have the fact that your local computer still has to access the cloud. We say this all the time, but all the cloud is back in the day, you had a server in your closet, and the cloud just means you move the server to someone else's closet. Everything else is exactly the same. And so bottom line, churches are a ripe target for the info and the data. It will just be, it will, I guess, remain to be seen how much money that the criminals are going to be able to get from churches. But yeah, it is a very big deal.
Yep. So guys, we got 45 minutes in. We got 3 topics still on the board. Do we want to cover them or are we good?
I mean, that's up to you.
So number 11 is paywall for me, so I don't even want to cover it because I can't even read it. It's only a headline for me. Do you see it?
Really? About the ransom gang?
Yeah.
Yep, paywalled.
Yep. So we'll move on from that. So sorry about that. We had 3 more topics we were going to cover, but the one's paywalled and we didn't realize it, and we can't tell you the juicy details behind it other than the fact that basically they're that ransomware gangs are displaying ruthless extortion tactics in April. Kind of goes along with what we've been saying throughout the show, that things are just getting worse. But you know, at the end of the day, they're looking to get paid with the data that they steal. It's not about encryption anymore. It hasn't been for a very long time now. And they are going to attack whoever they feel necessary based on the data set that's in front of them. I think we talked about this a lot when that police department was recently, or was it the FBI or the Secret Service? One of those, right? We were talking about how they were attacked, and you know, they'll use that information to go to people who are being investigated for crimes and things like that. Like, that's how ruthless these guys are. So anything else you guys want to add before we drop the show this week?
We talk about test game. Wait till AI gets involved in this. And these,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should see some of the stuff that I'm hearing and seeing with AI. It's pretty wicked. So
that should be a show of itself.
Yeah, it should. We should talk about AI next week because there's a lot coming out about that. There's a lot of companies that are already banning AI for good reason, because people are typing things about their company into ChatGTP and it's storing this information. And God knows if somebody gets a hold of that database, what they could do with what people are telling ChatGTP. So be very, very careful, folks, about what you type in ChatGTP and what information you give it, because somebody can get that data. And unfortunately, it's starting to happen. So
you should basically assume that anything you tell it, it's going to know and remember. So
know and remember, but someone else could also see it. And I think
exactly. That's what I mean is it'll be stored.
Right. So we got a question from Steve Mesco. Do you guys want to entertain it, or do you want to?
Sure.
All right. Steve? No, let's skip Steve.
Yeah. So, do you all think organizations will try to move away from passwords and 2FA in the future? Will biometrics become more common to take their place? I think certain biometrics I'm okay with, but others I'm not. The fingerprints can be tricked, and I can take a piece of tape and trick a fingerprint reader.
Brian did that right before he went down from the roof hanging on wires and did something. Right? Oh wait, that was a movie.
Yeah. I use Scotch tape to. I say, here, touch this Scotch tape. Why? Because, and then but I do like facial recognition software and stuff like that. I'm okay with that.
Something we haven't mentioned, quietly and kind of out of nowhere. I know there's been a little bit of rumblings, but in the last 3 or 4 days, Google has completely turned on passkey. As basically password-less authentication, where your device basically becomes both the password and the multi-factor, because you can have a fingerprint or something like that.
Right.
I'm sure they thought through it. It seems a little iffy on me, because if someone gets just a hold of your phone, they could potentially, like, especially if you had face unlock on there, they can potentially get access to things. But I do see, to answer Stephen's question directly, I do see a move away from that, like with Google using the passkey, because it kind of encapsulates all of that into one. But I don't know about biometrics becoming more common. I would say I would be very concerned if somebody wanted to take my biometrics off of my device and store them in the cloud, because those can be hacked and they could be used to do just about anything with. So I'd be very, very weary of that. What about you, Andre?
I just think the implementation is going to take a long time for them. I mean, look how long it just took people to get companies to get people to do MFA. So I just think the 2, 3, 4 years, and by that time it's too late.
Yeah, I'm in Andre's camp. I've been a big fan of the Jetsons since I was a little boy, and we still don't have flying cars.
Oh,
So,
but we have lasers though, so halfway
and
there, man.
and we have TVs where we can talk to each other and see each other.
Yeah.
So,
Is it a plane flying car? Kind of.
Yeah, and we also don't have machines that kick out dinner with the push of a button, like
Yeah.
a whole meal. Yeah, we're getting there though. We're getting there. I'm waiting for Amazon to start dropping the meals by drone.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, thank you. Good stuff. Keep it up. See everybody. You guys will be out in Nashville next week, right?
Yeah. We got to work out
All
the
right,
timing for that.
These two guys will come. I think our schedule will still be the same, but we might have to modify it. I'm not sure, but stay tuned on that. And these two will be together next week, and I'll be in my little box still. So take care, everyone. We'll see you in the next show. Thanks for the support. Share our show.